This is the first in a series of short videos where we will learn more about the printf function. Right? We've already learned about the Hello World program. Right? We remember from this code here, we can run this and generate this message Hello World in the output. And we learn how to use this function called printf, which is a formatted print function, to display the message inside the double quotes here, Hello World. Down below is a screen of the output of this program where we can see that the characters Hello World print out along with this escape sequence, this new line character, which would send the cursor down to the next new line to start printing if we had a second line. Well, that's all controlled by the printf function, and we want to learn how to print other things other than just character strings with it. So let's just continue on here. The printf function is defined, as every C function is, with a prototype. These vocabulary words are likely very new to you right now. When you learn to write your own functions, they'll make a little bit more sense. But whenever you have to go to a reference page to look up how to use a C function, you'll need to become more familiar with this, which is why I'm introducing it right now. Every function has what's called a prototype when it's defined. Right here, printf is the name of the function. Int is the return type. So some functions return values. When they return a value, we have to say what the data type is. So every function header has a return type, it has a function name, and then it has this parameter list. Well, printf is defined like this, that there has to be at least one argument in the list, the constant char star. That's a data type. It's advanced beyond this lecture. Just know that this is basically the data type of your string literal that you're typing in. That's what it is. Format is the name, it's a variable name, right, of the argument that's passed to the function. And then printf is a little bit different than some other C functions in that it has a variable length parameter list. So this ... means we can pass other information, but we're not required to. Right. So printf stands for print formatting. Right. And you'll see then that the string that we want to print out will always be here. It'll be this format string that goes in between the double quotes. It's written to a file stream called standard out. C uses streams to send the data to output, to read data from input. So the name of one of the streams is standard out, stdout. Right? And by default, that's connected to the console terminal, which is why we see that little terminal popping up on our screen. So we'll just think of printf as always printing out things to our screen at this point. Right. Well, the format string can be further broken up. Right. It can actually have all these different fields. Right. So we're going to see that when we want to print out variables, we're going to use the %sign. And optionally, so these square brackets here mean that these fields are optional. We can set certain flags about whether we want things left justified, right justified, whether we want leading spaces, other things that are a little more advanced beyond this lecture. The width, so for printing out numbers, we might want to control the width of the field. Same way with strings. Precision, well, if you think about it later when we print out floating point numbers, we might want to say how many decimal places. And then the length is a field that relates to the data type. A little more advanced than what will go on with these lectures. And finally, the specifier. So we will start with a %sign and the specifier when we want to print out data. And the specifier will be whether we want to interpret that data as an integer, a floating point, a character, a string. We'll use the different specifiers in these different examples. Right. And a lot of times it's easy to think of printf as having this control string. Right, that format field, this control string, so a string is just what we call a string of character literals. That control string is always here in the double quotes. Right, when we just want to print out hello world, we don't have to have anything in the variable list, but you'll see then that when we want to print out other variables, we'll have their names in the list. So right here, hello world, that is our control string. Without any of the %signs, that means we should just print out the characters seen here in the string, which we've already seen hello world. Right. As a reminder, a string is just a series of characters, a sequence of characters in between double quotes. You can put any character in here you want. Right, here's an example of several special characters. These are all just strings. You'd literally see, if we did this, you would just literally see this print to the screen. Right. So we see then that our control string will be broken down into, we use certain characters to specify the data values type, right? Size will be how wide we want it to print out on the screen, and we'll have other specific information to format it. And we can also put escape sequences in here as well. So some of these format specifiers might have to do with the width of the field, the precision, and so on. Right? But we'll see then that our string is going to expand from just characters, right, to textual data. We already had that in Hello World. Control characters, well, those were some of those escape sequences we used. What we're going to add are these conversion specifiers in our next example. Right? So our textual data, once again, are these individual characters, HELLO, right? So that is the textual data. The control character is a \n, right? So our general form, when we want to print out variables, is we'll always have this control string. We'll always have something in the variable list. But here's an example of what our string will look like when we want to add an integer argument in the variable list. If we just want to print out this integer value of 63, we're going to place this conversion specifier, %d. %d stands for a decimal integer, right? And if you think about the fact that everything in memory is stored in binary, so here I've used 32 bits to represent the integer 63, right, which is a really long string. We don't want to see that printed out. %d says to take this string, convert it to base 10 decimal, right, and we'll see the character 63 on the string. Let's just go ahead and see that in our example problem here. What we're going to do is we're just going to change this. So %d, comma, 63, you don't have to leave the spaces. So if I just want to print out this 63 is a literal, right? It's a constant, it's an integer data type, right? And whenever we type NC, remember it assumes everything is base 10. So if I just say build and run, all right, what comes up on the screen then is, it's probably difficult to see, right there is 63. Right. Now, if we just wanted to print out 63 all the time, we could hard code this into our program. Let me pop that up. I want to make one other point. All right, the other point I wanted to make while this was up here, notice that the %d does not show up on the screen. It's just a placeholder. It just substitutes in to this area. It says take whatever is in this argument here. In this case, the constant 63 is substituted in here. Right. Well, in the next lecture then, we will talk about how to print integers. Not just integers that are in the character strings, but integers that are stored in variables.